Hi, happy Monday, everybody, especially a Monday that may be part of an extended holiday weekend for you. So if you are here, thank you so much for joining me today. I am so beyond excited to talk to you today about books because I just love books. I love reading, and books have been such a huge integral part of my spiritual growth. So I'm so excited to share with you today the 3 books that have impacted me the most recently. But before we begin, as always, I would love to just take a collective breath together, 2 collective breaths together, to just ground us into this space and remind us to just come to where we are right now and be present. I just love the way breath can ground you and bring you into the moment that you're in, the moment that I'm in. So I'm going to begin today. Oh, I keep getting dark here and I'm not really sure why. So let me just adjust a little bit. Excuse me for showing off my armpit. All right. Sorry if I keep getting dark, little technical difficulties. I guess that's just the way it's going to be tonight. So today, the one that I want to begin with is the book that I was holding in the picture, Quantum Love. It's by Laura Berman. And for those of you who may or may not be familiar with her, she is a sex therapist. And all of the books that she's written before this one were very clinical. And it wasn't until she lost her mother to breast cancer and she herself was diagnosed with breast cancer that she began to see how important the spiritual aspect may be for her own growth. And out of that came this interest in the science behind spiritual growth and how that impacted her life. And this book became what manifested out of all of that. I was fortunate enough to see her in February, and I hadn't known very much about her before then, and I'm so grateful for the time that I had with her because it's the reason I went out and got this book. This is one of the books that I recommend the most to my clients. And what I love about it is that she did bring in, because she is so clinical, she's very science-minded, and so she brought a ton of science facts into her book. And one of the things that she brought in was this quantum love, what did she call it? The quantum love map. And so what I find so fascinating about this quantum love map is that she took the science behind the vibrational frequencies that we experience as humans, because each emotion has a vibrational frequency, and she has it all mapped out on this love map, all the way from the lowest vibrational frequency, which is shame or humiliation, all the way up to the highest vibrational frequency, which is enlightenment. And the frequencies between shame and humiliation and hopeful and courageous are you're in ego frequency when you're in that state. Anything from hopeful and courageous to enlightenment, you're in home frequency, what she calls home frequency. And that's when you're living out of love instead of out of ego. So in this book, she gives you so many tools, so many quizzes, so much information about how to determine where you are in your vibrational frequency and how to shift from being in an ego frequency into a home frequency. So many great tools in that book, and quite a few tools also on how to use those frequencies to really help your relationships. So awesome book, Laura Berman, Quantum Love. I will put a link down in the comments below so that you will have a link to each one of these books. So Quantum Love, that's my first book. My second book, again, I was so fortunate to see this woman in February. Her name is Gabrielle Bernstein. And this is The Universe Has Your Back. She has quite a few other books, but this is the book that I'm going to specifically be talking about today. And this book has, again, so many tools. I'm a big believer in the tools, the books that have tools, because that really helps you shift your helps you shift with your spiritual growth. So she's got a ton of universal lessons in here. She has a ton of prayers. She has meditations. So much great information. The universe has your back. So one of the messages that she had that I wanted to share with you is a universal lesson that says, put out what you want to receive. She says, our energy transmits a message, and that message will always be supported. If you're aligned with a belief system of fear, then your experiences will be backed with fear. If you retrain yourself to choose love, then you'll experience life through the lens of love. Imagine that, like all we have to do is shift from our fear and into a state of love, and then that's the experiences that we're going to attract into our lives. And she has a way of doing that by writing down on a piece of paper or in your journal, I am ready to learn through love. So this was a huge step for me because I was under the impression and I had the belief that I had to experience pain and I had to experience trauma in order to spiritually grow. I had to have some kind of it had to be a really hard life lesson to grow spiritually. And here she is saying that's not necessarily true. You can be in a love frequency, which we've talked about in the Quantum Love book. You can be in a love frequency and you're going to attract that, which means that you can grow from that love frequency. And I thought that was such a beautiful thing. And I loved the idea that I could grow and I don't need the pain to spiritually grow. So another, and that one of the things that I would recite often would be, lead me from this fear and help me learn through love. Lead me from this fear and help me learn through love. Another universal lesson that she had was obstacles are detours in the right direction. So these things that you witness, that you say, oh my gosh, why is this event happening to me? Why am I having to go through this pain? And, we immerse ourselves in that and we just share this story with ourselves over and over and over again. And we feel ourselves just get sunk down into the pain that causes. So she's asking us to switch our mindset from that mindset of fear and into a mindset of love. And she has a great prayer to help with that. And it's a very, very simple prayer. And that's one of the things that I love that she offers in here. Very simple. Thank you, universe, for helping me see this obstacle as an opportunity. I will step back and let you lead the way. This book really helped me to connect with my faith again. Not that I ever lost it, but I was really having a hard time connecting with it because I wasn't really a prayer person, and I love affirmative prayers, but they sometimes felt a little fake to me. And so prayer was something that I had a really hard time with. And Gabby Bernstein offers so many different ways of using prayer as just a way to shift out of a fear mindset into a love mindset. And so she really helped me to come back into connecting with my faith. And that faith doesn't necessarily have to be a faith in God. It can be anything for you. It could be the universe. It could be energy. It could be the Christ within. It could be oneness. Whatever it is that you call it. that's where you're going to be connecting to. That's what you'll be using the prayers for. And so the universe has your back. She will get you there. She will get you connected with that faith again. I'm so grateful to Gabby. So my final book that I'm going to be sharing with you today, this final book is the very first book that brought me into my spiritual growth in the first place. Eckhart Tolle's A New Earth. It was an Oprah Book Club book, and that's kind of how I got into it in the first place. And I started reading it, and it blew my mind because these were concepts that I had heard of, but I never could quite understand. And it's all the concepts that are behind ego, and what ego is, and how we are not ego. And I couldn't really understand that concept, and he explains it in such a way in A New Earth that I finally got it. And so one of the things that he said that really impacted me in this book, a couple things I'm going to share with you right now. Ego is no more than this: identification with form, which primarily means thought forms. So ego, it just means that we're attaching ourselves, the reality of who we are, to the things that we're thinking. And that's not really who we are. The things that we think is not who we are. He talks a little bit about collective human consciousness and how a new heaven, he believes, is the emergence of a transformed state of human consciousness, and a new earth is its reflection in the physical realm. And this is something that I have been seeing over and over through the years as I go through my own spiritual growth. There is this definite transformation of human consciousness, and I see more and more people talking about and experiencing the reality that we are not our thoughts. We are the witness of our thoughts. And so that's a really, really abstract concept. It took me a really long time of reading this book to understand that. And there was a paragraph that really stood out for me where he says, "Some people never forget the first time they disidentified from their thoughts and thus briefly experienced the shift in identity from being the content of their mind to being the awareness in the background." For whatever reason, that paragraph really resonated with me. And I was feeling so frustrated because I'm like, when am I going to, do I get it already? Do I understand this concept? Like, I think I understand this concept, but I feel like there's still something missing. Hi, Mom. My mom's on. And so I was really struggling with it, and I happened to be in the shower. I remember exactly where I was. Just like he said, some people never forget the first time. I remember my first time. I was in the shower, and I was thinking about all of these thoughts and all of these concepts in this book, A New Earth. My mind was reeling. I'm thinking about ego, and I'm thinking about disidentifying with ego. I'm just thinking about disidentifying with the thoughts that I'm having, but I'm in these thoughts, and I'm just watching them go around and around, and the next thing I know, I am pulled back from those thoughts. And I'm no longer having those thoughts. I'm watching those thoughts. And that's what it felt like. It felt like I was in the back of the shower and my thoughts were at the front of the shower, and I'm just watching them go around in that crazy, crazy circle. And I went, oh my God. I got chills all over my body, and I went, this is what he talked about. I am now the observer of my thoughts. I don't have to be a part of that crazy madness. And that moment was fleeting, and I instantly went right back into identifying with my thoughts, but I had it. I had the moment. And I knew that I could have that moment again and again and again. I couldn't lose that. Now I know what it felt like. Now I knew what it felt like to not be associated with my thoughts. I knew what it felt like to be the truth of who I am. And it was since then, which was, oh gosh, I read this book, Eckhart Tolle's A New Earth. I read it probably about 10 years ago. It was quite a few years ago, and since then, that is the reason why I meditate. I want to bring myself back into that state of being the observer of my thoughts and not being identified with my thoughts. And the more I meditate, the more that happens on a consistent basis. And that is all I could ever want. Because when you are the observer of your thoughts, there is so much peace to be had. Because there's nothing you're connected to. There's nothing you're identifying with. So there isn't the pain. Like if you were to be identified with your car, like the car is who I am, this Jeep Wrangler, which I did do that. I did identify with a Jeep Wrangler, and it was very painful because as I was identified with it, when I lost it, I lost a sense of myself because I was so identified with it. But in reality, it was just a car. It was never mine, and it was never going to last. The same thing is true with every single thing in your life. None of it is going to last. All of it is transitional. And so the moment that we can see that and disidentify from all of those thoughts and all of the things that we think we're identified with is the moment we will find peace. Eckhart Tolle, A New Earth. So this book is the reason why a hairdryer became my best friend. I was so into this book. I mean, it was on my nightstand. I was reading it nightly. It was everything to me. And I was reading it one day in the bathtub. I can be a little bit of a clumsy person at times. So, as you can imagine, this book ended up in the bathtub with me. I completely freaked out because I was identified with this book and I felt like I couldn't survive without it. And so I took a deep breath and I said, all right, what am I going to do about it? I could totally go out and buy a new book, but that would involve waiting another day or 2 days or however long it would take me to get to the bookstore or to order it off of Amazon, and I wasn't willing to wait. I needed this book. I needed to have it with me at all times. So I got my hairdryer out. And yes, this is the book that went into the bathtub with me, and I opened this up and I blow dried every single page individually. This was how much I loved this book. This was how important it was to me as a part of my spiritual journey. And I highly recommend Eckhart Tolle, A New Earth, to each and every person that is watching this. So my three books, A New Earth, Gabby Bernstein's The Universe Has Your Back, helping you bring back your faith, and Quantum Love, by Laura Berman, helping you lift up your vibrations. I will be posting each and every one of these books and links to them in the comments below when I'm finished with the Facebook Live event. If you have any questions, for those of you, I'm not sure, Carrie, if you are still on. If you are, hi. Michelle, I don't know if you're still on, and if you are, hi. Great to see you guys on here. If anybody has any questions about these books, or if you're watching this later after it's, if I'm off the call or off this event, and you have specific spiritual books that have been your go-to to help you in your spiritual journey, I would love to learn about them. I have had so many that have been such a huge part of my journey, and if there's some that I need to read that I haven't yet read, I would love to know about them. In the meantime, I know that I have mentioned before my website, melindaleeschmidt.com. I have invited you guys to go ahead and sign up for my email list, and I've heard that some people have a little bit of trouble signing up for that. So I just wanted to direct you to my Facebook page. On the left-hand side, there are a whole bunch of different separate pages, home, posts, reviews. You might want to check out those reviews. There's some good ones in there. Videos, photos, about, community, and at the very bottom it says lead pages. So if you want to go ahead and get signed up for my email list and receive my free guided meditation, go ahead into Lead Pages and you can sign up directly from there. My email list is great because you will be one of the first to know about all of the events and products that I'm going to be offering. I have a book in the works, and I expect to do a webinar in the future and maybe even doing some group coaching calls. So go ahead and sign up for my email list and receive my free guided meditation. It was wonderful to have everybody on this call today, and for those of you that are seeing it later, I am so blessed to have you as a part of my community. And if you have any questions about the books that I have suggested, feel free to write it in the comments below. I'll keep checking those. And again, I would love to hear about the books that have impacted your life. Thank you all for blessing me with your presence. I hope you have a happy and safe 4th of July tomorrow.